All right, good. We're ready to start. Welcome, everyone, to those of you in the room and to those of you listening online. Welcome to this policy seminar on managing natural resources for sustainable production systems, a research agenda at the crossroads. My name is Frank Place. I work with the Policies, Institutions, and Markets program in the CGIAR. But previously, I spent 22 years at IFPRI, World Agroforestry in Nairobi, so I have quite a bit of experience, not necessarily wisdom, but some experience in NRM. And so I wanted to just mention a few things about NRM research in the CGIAR, just to set a bit of context for the speakers that follow. And I can't help but recognize that Peter Matlin's in the room, because my very first experience in NRM research in the CGIAR was actually in Burkina Faso when Peter was running the ICRISAT station there. And I learned at firsthand the harsh conditions that farmers are facing in conditions such as the Sahel, and the challenges for research. They were working on a range of options at ICRISAT, working on tied rigid systems for soil conservation and water retention, but also looking at the labor-saving aspects of that and trying to configure implements for animal traction and how to create those. And so it was a fascinating introduction to me. Maybe that stuck with me. But I wanted to say, just to point out to give you a little bit of understanding of the breadth that's going on in the system. So as you're probably aware, there's many NRM practices that have been developed in part by the CGIAR that focus on the field or the farm level. And we have many examples from around the system. Some are very tailored towards specific crop NRM combinations, like CIMMYT works on conservation agriculture and maize systems, for example. But other centers are working on NRM practices that are more generic and can be applied to a range of enterprises in livestock or crops. That's challenging enough for researchers to work on those, but you know, we soon realized in the CGIAR that it's much more about field or farm level as well. And so you had programs like the African Highlands Initiative, the Alternatives to Slash and Burn. We had the challenge programs, one on climate, one on water for food. All of these are looking at larger landscapes and ecosystems in their analysis. And that led to the need to create more options than just practices that farmers could use, right? So we have a range of outputs that are being generated, at least in part by CGIAR centers. So some are models where you can look at trade-offs at various scales of what your interventions might do and produce. We have tools that can be used by different users. On soil testing, we have tools for games to spur collective action. We have different approaches. We have the climate smart villages. We have the collaboration for resilience approach from the CGIAR. We have institutions on water and management rules, and we have natural resource management policy options that quite a few centers are working on. So it's quite a diverse portfolio. And even within one of our flagships on governance of natural resources within the Policies, Institutions, and Markets program, we have research on rangelands, forests, agroforestry, common pool genetic resources, crop and other biodiversity, water and fishery resources. So you can see that it's quite diverse. With the advent of the new strategy and results framework, you're well aware of that we have environmental goals as well that we're aspiring to in the system. And so it's really an opportune time for us to, with limited resources, to really take a fresh look at where are we going in our NRM research agenda. And to help that along, undertaking impact assessment studies are very vital in all of that. And we've recognized that there's been there's been some studies undertaken on NRM impacts by the centers over the time, but we recognize there's methodological design challenges, and as a result, there's not a lot of high-quality studies of NRM impacts at scale from throughout the system. So the Standing Panel on Impact Assessment has recognized that challenge and gap, and so they have undertaken a coordinated set of studies over the past few years under their Strengthening Impact Assessment in the CGIAR program, which tries to address both methodological and empirical gaps. It invested into a number of empirical studies. Many are around these field and farm level practices, but not exclusively around those. But as James will soon show, the results from them show kind of modest to uptake and impact, and not overwhelming anyway, not overwhelming us in the room. So as a consequence, they wanted to have some more dialogue. And so for the past two days, we've had a very interesting workshop with a lot of colleagues from within the CGIAR, whom many are here now, and with some experts outside the system as well, to brainstorm over what can we do better in terms of developing NRM options, having them disseminated to the right next users and farmers, and also on how we can do a better job in impact assessment. So we've taken advantage of the workshop to have this policy seminar, and we have three excellent speakers. I know all of them, and I can say that all of them are pushing frontiers in their own research areas and development areas. So I'm very thrilled to have them and looking forward to their comments. So the first speaker will be James Stevenson. Maybe you can raise your hand. James Stevenson works under the Independent Science and Partnership Council, the Standing Panel on Impact Assessment, where he's been there since 2010. And he has had previous experience with Oxfam, and he's now based in Austin, Texas, so he's away from headquarters, so maybe he gets more work done, I hope. Then the second speaker is Sarah Scherer, who is the president and CEO of Eco-Agricultural Partners. She previously had several undertakings as a kind of a venturist, I think, with Forest Trends and the Landscapes for Food and Nature Initiative. She previously also had a significant career in the CGIAR both with the World Agroforestry Center and here with IFPRI. Then the third speaker is Karen McClure. Karen McClure is the chair of the Standing Panel on Impact Assessment, but she's also an associate professor at the Paris School of Economics and a researcher at the French National Institute for Agricultural Research, INRA, and she previously worked also at Johns Hopkins University. So briefly how the setup is that James is going to give you a little flavor for these studies that SPIA has coordinated over the past 5 years, just introduce you to the types of studies and the lessons that emerge. Then Sarah is going to come in to give us the big picture as kind of a user of research, I think. Well, what are the big challenges and big issues out there that are challenging us in achieving the SDGs and so forth, and what does that mean for our research agenda here in the CG? And then Karen McClure will finish with some thoughts on the future directions of NRM research and impact assessment within the CGIAR. So thank you very much. And